What's up, guys? Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. Welcome back to the channel. Today is a little sad because I had to, well, it's finally time, it's finally getting cold enough for me to switch over to my winter wheel and tire setup. I've done videos in the past of how to prep your car for the winter. I'll put that in the description up here, or in the corner up there. I'll put that link. But I decided to not change my suspension setup this time around. The roads are very flat here, and I don't think that we don't really get a ton of snow, so I'm not gonna be lifting the car back up, so which means we're gonna be keeping the pretty aggressive suspension setup that we had for our summer rest of the year wheel and tire set. Don't get me wrong, I am not hating on the OEM wheels. I'm not hating on the tires I have here, but they are a very much less aggressive setup. Let me show you guys what I mean. So these are the OEM Subaru premium wheels for the WRX in 2016, I think 17 as well. They are 18 by 8.5 plus 55 offset. And yes, they do clear the 4-pot Brembos. I don't know if they clear the 6-pots. But these are actually the same wheels that come on the Canadian STI for that year. So they are made and designed to clear those Brembos, which is great. But because they are a thinner wheel and with a less aggressive offset than what I have on my for the rest of the year, you'll notice that the wheel is much more sunk in to the fender here. There we go. So we have a little more light now. You guys can see these things are pretty sunk in. And like I said, I do have, I think it's minus 2.5 degrees of camber in the front, and then just about the same in the rear. But you can see back there how much that wheel face is pushed in. So we're going to be fixing this problem with a beautiful set of FactionFab's wheel spacers. All right, so let's just open the box up. I did already unwrap these. They were covered in plastic, but these things are very well packaged and probably one of the best options you guys can choose. Come on out, for wheel spacers. And I'll show you guys why. So first off, these things look absolutely amazing. They are hub-centric. Let me, before I go into the details here, let's just admire how pretty these are. In my opinion, I think wheel spacers have really gotten a bad name for themselves over the years. I think it's because overall, there's been a lot of misinformation and also people not using the correct products. So back in the day, wheel spacers usually looked like this. They were just a flat piece of metal with holes to go over your OEM lugs, and people would have a lot of issues with them. The reason they have issues is for a couple of reasons. One, when you add a spacer to your hub, the OEM wheel studs are sometimes not long enough for you to appropriately get enough thread into them with the lug nuts. So if you have a standard wheel spacer, like an old one like this, and you put it on your car, the OEM studs just don't reach out far enough. And that can lead obviously to a bunch of issues. The other reason is because most of these older style of spacer don't have this piece here. This one does, but it has what's called a hub-centric ring. As you guys can see, let's see if we can get that in focus. Perfect. Right here, this lip matches and mirrors the hub ring, the hub centric ring that's on your OEM hub face. And I'll show you guys that when we take the wheel off in a second here. What that does is it helps center the wheel perfectly onto the hub face. And when you're running aftermarket wheels, you have to do a little hub ring spacer adapter to again hold the aftermarket wider hub ring that usually they have on the back of the wheels. But this is, and this one as well from FactionFab has that lip right there. So like I said, most of these older style don't usually have that, and so you have issues with instability, which puts more forces onto the lug nuts and the wheel studs themselves, rather than onto the hub ring like it's designed to. So I have this set. It's going to a cool project, which you guys will talk about later, because this set does come with an extended set of wheel studs to use with these. But when we're looking at the more modern option here from FactionFab, you see that you have aftermarket studs pressed in on the back here, and they're perfectly designed to basically act as the new hub for your wheel to mount on. So there are a bunch of design aspects that really are intended to make this safe for the car, effective, and allow you to push those wheels out without having to worry about instability with your lug nuts ripping off, which is absolutely amazing. So how these work is you're going to be mounting them with these holes onto the OEM studs and using the supplied really short lug nuts that'll go into each of these holes, and you're going to torque those down to the OEM specs. And then you have these brand new threads for your aftermarket wheels or whatever wheels to mount onto. Now, unlike that other one I just showed, this is forged aluminum, so they're super strong. They have the hub-centric ring, which is super tall, which is gonna help, again, center that wheel perfectly and keep it stable. And then we have these wheel studs that are pressed in, which have a coating on them, a black coating, which is for keeping them fresh and weatherized, and just basically clean, and much cleaner than what the OEM wheel studs are. So really, really excited to get these on the car. And before I do that, I do want to show you guys, for those of you who are math nerds like me, I'm gonna show you guys the calculations of how I decided what width of wheel spacer to run. This is my mathematics sheet, my calculation sheet for how I decided what size to run. So on the left here, we have our diagram for our NK TS10s, which have my 265/35 Continental tires on. That is my summer set, or the rest of the year set, and they are 18 by 9.5 plus 35 offset. On the right here, we have the wheels that are on the car now, which is my winter set. It's the OEM 18 by 8.5 plus 55 offset. There's a lot of confusion about what offset means, but basically it's the distance from the mounting face on the back of the wheel to the center of the wheel. So the higher that number, the closer the wheel mounting face is to the outer lip, and therefore pushing the wheel further into the fender. So in this diagram here is the fender I've drawn, here's the outer face of the wheel, and here's the inner face of the wheel. And then this piece right here is basically the mounting, this is the hub face here. So dotted line I have here is the halfway point of the wheel. So here is the math. This wheel is 9.5 inches, which means it's 241.3 millimeters. This wheel is 8.5 inches wide and 215.9 millimeters. To get the measurement from the halfway point of the wheel over, we just divide by 2, and we get 120.65 millimeters on the left for the larger wheels, and 107.95 millimeters on the right. So what we can get from that is, what is the distance from the hub face, which is right here in the diagram, to the outermost portion of that wheel. And that calculation there is basically how far out does the wheel go. So for the NKs, we did the halfway distance minus the offset, and that is 85.65 millimeters, which means the face of the wheel is 85.65 millimeters from the mounting hub base. On the OEM, it's much less, it's 52.95, which means the difference between the two is 32.7 millimeters. So that means that the OEM wheels, ones I have in the car now for winter, are 32.7 millimeters farther in towards the hub face than the aftermarket NKs I have. So I could technically have bought the 30 millimeter spacers, but again, winter, I don't want to run a super aggressive setup for the winter, so I decided to push these back out 25 millimeters. So some other good information you guys need to know when buying spacers, obviously the width. So this is 25 millimeters. That's really important, but also making sure you're getting the right size for your car. So you want to make sure that the pressed-in studs are the right thread pitch for your car. For WRXs, I believe it's M12 by 1.25 thread pitch. And then you also want to make sure that the hole spacing and the stud spacing is the right size. So for me, I have all of my wheels are 5 by 1 14.3 thread spacing or stud spacing. So the spacing for the new studs is that exact 5 by 1.14. 5 by 114.3, I mean. And then same thing for the holes. They do make these so you can convert a 114 thread pitch to 5 by 100. If you have 5 by 100 aftermarket wheels, they do make those conversion sets, which is awesome. But for me, it's 114 and 114. So let's get the car jacked up and actually get these on the car. So one thing I wanted to start doing with all of our videos is going through every single tool you guys will need to do some of these installations. So first off, obviously you need a jack and jack stands. Make sure you lift the car up, get the wheels off. You can use a breaker bar or a big impact driver like I do. Obviously you need the wheel key. I have aftermarket lug nuts, so I just have one. For the OEM, you'll need the OEM key. You'll need the provided lug nuts for the new spacer. Of course, you'll need a torque wrench. We don't want to be eyeballing this. We want to make sure we're doing the exact torque we need, and then blue Loctite or thread locker. Additionally, if you can, I also suggest these. This is white lithium grease that I'm going to be putting on the back of the hub face to make sure that these spacers don't stick to the hub face when we go to change them out in the spring. And then also I recommend a wire tool. If you have a wire wheel, that's great, just to clean off the OEM wheel studs while we're in there. So let's get these wheels off and get started. So I'm just gonna do a couple dots just around the circle here, and then a couple on that hub ring. And we wanna make sure we don't get any of this on the threads of your wheel studs themselves, because we don't want any lubricant affecting the torque specs of those wheel studs. This is in the FactionFab instructions on their website. I'm putting blue thread locker on the OEM wheel studs. You don't need a lot, just a good line that will spread around when you put the new ones on. Perfect. Now we can put these on. So I'm just using the impact gun to spin these on. I am not letting it do any ugga-duggas. We're gonna be doing all that by hand with the torque wrench. So one thing I forgot to mention is the great thing about this anodized coating. Because of this coating, it is very, very resistant to being, to corrosion, to salt, to grime. I just like that peace of mind of using the extra tiny bit of lithium grease. So now that those are on, let's get our torque wrench out. And let's torque these down to between 80 and 85 foot-pounds. So you do need a thin wall socket set. Well, this one right here, to show you guys. This is the, right here, this is the impact set that I have, and then this is just a standard mechanic set. And this one seems to work fine. It is a 19 millimeter and does fit perfectly in there. So just keep that in mind. Any standard set should be work, but impact set might be too thick to fit in there. Let me grab my little extension here. All right, and that's all 5. And they fit perfectly. So we're doing the same thing, we're just hand threading each of these lug nuts to start. And then we're spinning them on. With the impact gun. And that looks so good. We have more clearance on the Brembo, not that that was an issue, but if you guys are having clearance issues, this is a perfect way to fix that. I can already tell that this is pushed out much farther. We're not gonna have any issues of rubbing because again, we do have that amount of difference between these. These are still technically less wide than my other ones. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me finish this all up and do that on all 4 corners, and we'll get back to you guys once I'm able to lower the car and see the results. So I talk about the best way to torque your lug nuts. What I always do is before I drop the car, I hand thread the lug nuts on, and then I use my gun, impact driver, whatever, to just get them down to just like 1 ugga at the bottom. And then they're pretty much safe to lower the car onto. Once the car is down, go in with your torque wrench, make sure it's at the right setting. I do 82 foot-pounds. Come on. And then always in a star pattern. So I like to start with the top one. That's 1. 2. 3. 4. And 5. And that's it. So hopefully you guys can see how much further these wheels are pushed out, how much they fill this fender. It looks really, really good to me. I hate seeing how that wheel sunk in so far after seeing my more aggressive setup with my other wheels, but I just think this looks so much better. On a stock car, 25 millimeters on these wheels, the OEM wheels, will probably be much more flush. Remember that I did pull my fenders out pretty far in order to run my other setup. So these fenders are pulled out. So this setup right here is gonna be absolutely perfect for me for making sure the car doesn't rub in the winter. I don't have to bring it back up, the height back up, and it looks much more stanced out and meaty with these FactionFab wheel spacers. So super happy with it. Let me give you guys another angle.
All right guys, so here is the finished product. Just from a different angle. Again, I am running pretty good camber in the front, but these are going to tuck in there so perfectly and look really good. The rears especially, look how much better those fill that fender. So super, super happy with how this came out. FactionFab again, making an amazing product and the kind that you want on your car. So there they are. Get in focus. Come on, there we go. Absolutely amazing. A couple things.
Whenever I use Loctite, I always make sure to let the Loctite settle and cure for a certain amount of time. If it's, you know, at least a couple hours, that's really all the time you need. They say overnight, but these should be fine after, you know, 5-6 hours. So I'm gonna let the car sit for a while. I'm gonna take it out for a drive later on, make sure there's no issues, but I don't think there's going to be. I think this is a great way to improve how this car looks and handles, of course. Wider track means more stable in corners, less body roll, things like that. But really, really happy with how this came out. Thank you guys so much for watching. All the product links will be down in the description. Some of the tools I used as well in this video, so make sure you guys go check that out. Also, this is completely random, but a couple weeks ago, maybe a month now, I installed these amazing, really cheap Amazon LED light strips. They all daisy chain into each other, as you can see. And so I can just control them from one plug right here. You can probably even buy a little adapter switch, so you can just flick a switch instead of having to plug it on and off, plug it in and out, I mean. But yeah, these things are absolutely amazing. They were really cheap. So I'll be putting those in the description down below if you guys ever need those. But let me just show you guys before and after here. And lights back on. Yeah, really, really good. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. I want all of you guys to stay safe this winter. If you guys are not used to driving in snow, definitely get yourself at least a set of all seasons, because you will slide with a summer set, even in a little bit of ice, a little bit of hail, cold temps. So cool. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. We will see you next week. Peace.